As a preliminary matter, this is Judy Vetter, Chair of the Finance Committee. Please permit me to confirm that all members and persons anticipated on the agenda are present and can hear me. Members, when I call your name, please respond in the affirmative. Mark Adler?
Affirmative.
Vikram Chabra?
Yes, aye.
John Sinelnik?
Here.
I believe that Aaron Howard is not with us tonight. Is that correct? She's not here. Okay. Hannah Kane?
Here.
Mark Murray, I believe he's also not with us this evening. Jordan Rubin, I believe he's also not with us this evening. And Carlos Garcia.
Here.
Thank you. Staff, when I call your name, please respond in the affirmative. Kevin Mizikar?
Present.
Alexandra Martinez?
Present.
Well, good evening to you all. This open meeting of the Finance Committee is being conducted remotely, consistent with Governor Baker's executive order of March 12, 2020, due to the current state of emergency in the Commonwealth due to the outbreak of the COVID-19 virus. In order to mitigate the transmission of the COVID-19 virus, we have been advised and directed by the Commonwealth to suspend public gatherings, and as such, the governor's order suspends the requirement of the open meeting law to have all meetings in a publicly accessible physical location. Further, all members of public bodies are allowed and encouraged to participate remotely. The order, which you can find posted with the agenda materials for this meeting, allows public bodies to meet entirely remotely, so long as reasonable public access is afforded so that the public can follow along with the deliberations of the meeting. Ensuring public access does not ensure public participation unless such participation is required by law. This meeting will not feature public comment. For this meeting, the Finance Committee is convening by Google Hangouts as posted on the town's website, identifying how the public may join. Please note that this meeting is being recorded and that some attendees are participating by video conference. Accordingly, please be aware that other folks may be able to see you and to take care to not share screen your computer unless asked by the chairperson or the staff person. Anything that you broadcast may be captured by the recording. Before we move into the agenda, permit me to cover some ground rules for effective and clear conduct of our business and to ensure accurate meeting minutes. I, Judy Vetter, will introduce each board member or staff member who has the lead role for this particular item or guest speaker associated with this item on the agenda. After they conclude the remarks, the chair will go down the line of members first and then to the staff members, inviting each by name to provide any comment or questions. I will then call upon the members to offer a motion and then for a second. Please hold until your name is called. Further, please remember to mute your phone or computer when you are not speaking. Remember that unless a document is being shared, your camera feed is triggered by your speaking or background noise. To mute and unmute your telephone, dial *6. Please remember to speak clearly and in a way that helps generate accurate meetings. If members wish to engage in colloquially with other members, please do so through the chair, taking care to identify yourself. Finally, each vote taken in this meeting will be conducted by roll call vote. And I want to note that Jordan Rubin is actually in attendance. Good evening, Jordan.
Thank you. I'm here.
I would now like to call to order the July 9th Finance Committee meeting. Before we move into the agenda items, first I would like to congratulate Hannah Kane on being reappointed to the committee.
Thanks, Judy.
And I would also like to welcome Carlos Garcia. He's a new appointment to the committee. Welcome, Carlos. And if you could take a couple moments and share a little bit with the committee about yourself, that would be great.
Sure thing. Thank you. And I'm really honored to be amongst this group. I am a town meeting member from Precinct 1. I was voted in 2017. I also last year graduated from Assumption College, while it was still a college and not a university. And I graduated with a degree in psychology and a minor in political science. And I really like being active in town. So some of you at home may have seen me at your doors campaigning for various things, such as the New Beale School. So I like being involved, and I'm again honored to be a part of this committee.
Well, thank you, Carlos, and again, welcome to the committee. We're going to move on to agenda item number 2 now, which is reorganization of the Finance Committee. So there are 3 positions that we have: chair, vice chair, and clerk. Can I get I guess we should start with the chair position. Can I get a nomination for chair?
I'll make a nomination to Judy Vetter to serve another term as chair.
Thank you, Hannah. Are there any other nominations for chair of the committee? Okay, seeing none, then I guess we'll take a vote on Judy Vetter as chair for the preceding year.
Judy,
yes.
you should just have a second. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Oh, I'm sorry. Yes. Can I get a second for the nominee?
Second.
Thank you. All right. So now we'll proceed to a vote. All in favor? So I'm going to start with Mark Adler. Mark Adler?
Aye. Hello.
Hi. Thank you, Mark. Vikram?
Aye.
Thank you, Vikram. John Sinelnik?
Aye.
Thank you, John. Hannah Kane?
Aye.
Thank you, Hannah. Jordan Rubin?
Aye.
Thank you, Jordan. Carlos Garcia?
Aye.
Well, thank you very much. I do appreciate that, and I look forward to serving as the chair again this year. So now we will move on to vice chair. Can I get a nomination for vice chair?
Judy, remind me, who's serving in that now? Is that Mark?
That's John Sinelnik.
John. Well, John, so is there anyone who would like to serve in that capacity?
I think, Mark, I think you had expressed an interest in the position. So if that's the case, I'd like to nominate Mark Adler.
Second.
Okay. Thank you.
All right. Are there any other nominations for vice chair? Okay, so we have a nomination and a second for Mark Adler. So now we'll vote on that. Mark Adler?
Aye.
Vikram Chabran?
Aye.
John Sinelnik?
Aye.
Hannah Kane?
Aye.
Jordan Rubin?
Aye.
Carlos Garcia?
Aye.
Judy Vetter? Aye. Okay, so great. Congratulations, Mark. You are now vice chair. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mark, are you currently serving in the clerk's position?
To the best of my ability. It's been a long slog, and unfortunately, my reign of terror must now end.
All right.
And since, frankly, I have your attention, could we take this opportunity perhaps to just abolish the position or ignore it or just pretend like it doesn't exist? I'm not really sure what the job was supposed to do, and I've never seen anyone, at least on the Finance Committee, ever actually execute anything other than having this as a word after their name on a document somewhere.
Let me jump in.
I was going to say, I think it's in the bylaws, isn't it?
Yes, it's in the bylaws, number one, and basically, being the clerk for about 4 or 5 years, Mark, before you, once upon a time, I actually had to take notes when we had a meeting on stage, because usually, someone that employed by the town ends up taking notes most of the time. And we had one meeting on stage before the town meeting that no one was available, so I ended up taking the notes to the meeting. So that's basically the one time in about 4 years that I actually did use my clerk duties, I guess.
I nominate John Sigelnik for clerk.
I don't think that we should do that because John's term is ending. So I think we should have somebody who's going to stay on.
Right.
Thank you, Hannah. I agree with Hannah. I mean, I think John was a great clerk, but for the reason that he's forgot what the term is, but will be leaving us at the end of the budget season. I agree with Hannah. So can I get a nominee for clerk's position?
Anyone?
I nominate Jordan.
I second it. Are there any other nominations for clerk? Okay, seeing none. So we'll take a vote on Jordan Rubin for clerk. Mark Adler,
Aye.
Vikram,
Aye.
John,
Aye.
Hannah,
Aye.
Jordan,
Aye.
Sorry,
Carlos,
Jordan.
Carlos,
Aye.
Judy Vetter, aye. Congratulations, Jordan. You're now the clerk of the Finance Committee.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right, so that concludes the reorganization of the Finance Committee. That'll take us to agenda item number 3, which is accepting the meeting minutes for June 25th.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, it has been moved in second that we accept the meetings minutes for June 25th, 2020. So now I will do the roll call vote to accept those minutes. Okay, Mark Adler,
Aye.
Vikram,
Aye.
John,
Aye.
Hannah Kane,
Aye.
Jordan,
Aye.
Carlos,
Aye.
Judy Vetter, aye. So the meeting minutes are accepted. So that takes us down to item number 4, which is to review and act on a reserve fund transfer request for the health insurance account. At this point, I'll ask the town manager, Kevin Mizikar, to present that to us.
Thank you, Judy. The committee will remember just, excuse me, at your last meeting 2 weeks ago that we also had a reserve fund request for the group health and life insurance account. So I'm sorry we didn't quite get the calculation right whenever we were projecting the final payroll of the year. The details behind that is we didn't provide the full calculation for all school employees as we worked through June. Some school employees receive a final check, the first payment, payroll, and then others continue on, and we just miscalculated. So there's no new enrollees. The numbers that I provided with the overage over the prior budget year remain the same. But our calculation was 15,800 short for your last calculation. This will bring the reserve fund down to $125,000 or $135,000, excuse me. So still a sufficient amount of funds remaining, and we would turn the rest of that back. There shouldn't be any other actions needed for fiscal year 20.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Mizikar. At this point now, I'm going to go down through and ask each member if they have any questions or comments. Mark?
No comments or questions.
Vikram?
Same, no comments or questions.
John?
No comments, questions.
Hannah?
No, thanks.
Jordan?
No comments.
He was
Carlos?
busy taking notes.
Carlos?
No comment as well.
Okay. And Judy Vetter, I have no questions or comments either. So at this point then, can I get a motion to approve the fund transfer?
So moved.
Can I get a second?
Second.
Great. All right, thank you. It's been moved and seconded. So now I'm going to go down through a roll call to vote for approval of the fund transfer. Mark?
Aye.
Vikram?
Aye.
John?
Aye.
Hannah?
Yes.
Jordan?
Aye.
Carlos?
Aye.
Judy Vetter? Aye. The fund transfer has been approved. It takes us now to agenda item number 5, which is the town manager's report. Mr. Mizikar?
Thank you. I just want to provide a couple updates to the committee from where we were last time. I don't have any documents to share, but briefly, The initial closeout with local receipts yielded a little bit of additional funding in the last few days of the month, which put us in a better position. As you recall, we were over the original budgeted estimate. We still have interest to credit to the account, which is part of the final quarter, which will be up to another $100,000 or so, but the local receipts came in about $535,000 over the budget estimate, which I'm certainly pleased with given the financial climate. But again, it's still probably about $1 million less than we were on track to receive based upon our position on March 31st. With regards to the collections for the general tax rate, as I noted at the last meeting, they remained very strong, and they're in the upper 90%. We have not finished processing all the collections yet that we received prior to the end of the fiscal year, so we're currently closing that out. We wrap up the books from both the revenue and expenditure standpoint by July 15th. So certainly in the coming meetings, I can provide a full detailed update with where we close for the fiscal year from a revenue standpoint. And I do not have data yet on the expenditure side of the closeouts. That takes a little bit more work to make sure that not only do we pay all the final bills for the fiscal year, but departments have the opportunity to encumber funds for certain types of expenses that may extend into the fiscal year that were initiated and services incurred in the current. So all in all, no alarm, no concern for deficit, certainly not a strong year financially in comparison to previous years, but a solid year given the economic circumstances that we're facing.
Thank you, Mr. Mizikar. So at this point, I'm going to go down through the roll call and see if there's any questions or comments on Mr. Mizikar's town manager's report. Mark?
No questions or comments.
Vikram?
No comment.
John?
Yeah, the one question I have is on the proposal for the town meeting prep, is that a separate line item we're going to discuss, or is that part of the town manager's report?
That's the next one. It's separate.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
All right.
All right, Hannah, any questions or comments?
No, thank you.
Jordan?
None, thank you.
Carlos?
I also don't have any.
All right, and I do not have any questions or comments either. Thank you, Mr. Mizikar.
Thank you.
The next item is the review of the meetings schedule, and we're going to discuss the committee's plans for reviewing the revised budget and holding public hearings in the annual town meeting warrant. And Mr. Mizikar shared with us a document proposing a couple of meeting dates. Mr. Mizikar, would you like to review that with us?
Sure, I'd be happy to. Thanks for the
Thank you.
opportunity. Sorry I got this to the committee a little bit late today, but we're just trying to put all the pieces together. I do want to reiterate just for the committee and everyone out there that our most concrete plans will be to have town meeting on August 8th and Saturday morning, starting Saturday morning. So the Board of Selectmen and the moderator will be discussing that in more detail at the board's meeting Tuesday evening. So please stay tuned, and official actions and notifications will occur after that. Obviously, this is a bit of a different year. We were able to make it through the Finance Committee's traditional public hearing schedule in late February and early March, and then we wrapped that up and moved, unfortunately, into this situation with the coronavirus that has really put us on hold and lent much uncertainty to our financial situation. So there's a couple of key things that the board does, of course, for town meeting. One is review the budget in detail through hearing processes. And that always kind of comes in two parts. One is the main hearings through fiscal projection 1, and then we normally make some revisions in early April and tie things out right before the annual town meeting through your second scheduled public hearing process, which focuses on the town meeting warrant, which of course the town operating budget and capital plan is a part of. So obviously this year, maybe more than any year in the past, there's been a lot of changes from fiscal projection 1 to fiscal projection 2, all with both the revenue model, which we discussed last time, and then ultimately the amount of funds that we have to allocate and reducing the budget to make sure we fit within that revenue model. And we've made some changes and while we anticipate reducing revenues or receiving less revenues of about $3.6 million, we've made some other changes to offset that impact, including the use of additional free cash rather than funding the stabilization account, to mitigate those changes down to about $2.1 million reduction in the overall operating budget for non-utility purposes. So that's a big number. As I always like to say, $2.1 million has a big impact on my personal bank account, but for the town, that's about $1.7 million that we, or 1.7%, excuse me, of the total amount that we spend on operations annually. So it's certainly some of the most critical dollars because it provides some, continuation of services and full staffing, but in total, it's only 1.7% of total expenditures. So I wanted to talk to the committee about your approach to the budget. I will say that, those changes are rather similar across all departments. The departments on average, the average reduction across any single department, if you put them all together, is about 1.8%. If you look at the town, and I went through this last meeting, if you look at the town as a whole, it's a municipal side, it's about a little less than 3%. If you look at the schools, it's about 1.75%. So certainly some things to talk about, but I don't think we need to reinitiate 3 additional days of budget hearings. I think we can highlight the changes throughout the course of a single meeting for both the town and school budgets. Well, not a single meeting. I'm proposing breaking it up, but really allocating, I think, about 2 hours of time to be able to walk through those changes with you from both myself and the superintendent of schools. And just my final note before I kind of turn it back over to the chair with regards to a discussion on how you want to proceed with the budget, from my recommendation is that so coronavirus expenses are certainly at the front of everyone's mind. And we need, I'm more than happy to share with the committee, how we're approaching those, but they're not going to impact the operating budget substantially, mainly because we've received federal stimulus dollars through the state to cover at least our costs through December 30th. So any extraordinary costs that the town will incur from a public health standpoint, public safety standpoint, public building standpoint, across the board, and even the schools and their reopening, we are confident that we have sufficient, if not excess, federal stimulus dollars to use between now and December 31st. So it is not my intention to be confusing the operating budget discussion with the coronavirus impact on the town. So while there's an impact of reduced revenues, which will require us to reduce the budget, the operating budget does not include the aspects that we're using to disproportionately offset those challenges. That will be entirely funded through those stimulus funds, the coronavirus relief funds, and the CARES Act funding that we've received. And in total, between those two pots of money, there's $1.4 million specifically earmarked for the schools and $3.3 million that can be used across the town and schools. So it is actually my hope that we're able to extend the use of those revenues beyond December 31st, again, because I believe that we have more than enough funds to cover our coronavirus related response and extra costs with that funding. So just trying to separate what folks may be expecting to hear what you may have heard at the Board of Selectmen meetings and the school committee meetings about, the overall budget picture with just what we're focusing on for the FY21 budget, and which will go before town meeting.
Judy, can I ask a question, please?
Yes, I was going to go down through it, so you were the first one anyway, so please.
Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you very much. So I'm sorry. I just want to clarify so I understand this, and the hundreds, thousands of people who are watching us can get this too. That the fiscal problems we're running into for FY21 are not COVID expense related. They are rather tax revenue related, and all the Schedule A revenue related. It's money in, not money out.
That is correct. That's how we're approaching this. So, there's certainly extra expenses that we have in order to be able to, for instance, have additional nurses in the schools or provide additional public health response, things like that. Those are being funded through those stimulus or emergency funded dollars through those various federal acts. The challenges of the $2.1 million reduction are related to general economic impacts from the coronavirus. And it's not an indication of, ultimately a lot of additional spending that we have to do because of it. It's more of a revenue reduction.
Thank you.
Thank you. Vikram, did you have any questions or comments?
No questions.
John? Do you have any questions or comments?
Yes, I do. The $2.1 million reduction, I guess, if I understood that correctly, that's really a net number, meaning I'll make up numbers here. Say the tax revenue is down maybe closer to $3 million, but you're pulling extra money out of the free cash to net out to the 2.1 million. Did I understand that correctly?
Yes, you did.
Okay. So I guess in terms of giving a list of the changes in the budget, are you going to give us a list of all the changes on the revenue side also, as well as the budget side?
Yes. Yeah. And I will provide the more detailed documents that you're accustomed to seeing. They were summarized through the slides in last month, or excuse me. It was last month, but our last meeting in a summary format, but we'll get them into the more familiar documents for your comparison purposes. But yes.
I guess, will we get those before the meeting so we can digest them?
Yeah, absolutely. We're the documents in draft form will be, ready for you well in advance of your next meeting if it's, if we move forward with, kind of as I propose it for the 22nd. I would anticipate being able to have them for you near the end of next week, if not before.
Okay. I guess the last question is, in terms of the proposed approach, you're talking like 0.75 hours for yourself and the superintendent, I guess. And then basically on the second page, you're estimating the time it will take for us in our meetings. The way I read this, the 0.75 hours in terms of your presentations is in addition to the time it will take us to go through the warrant.
That is correct.
Okay.
I tried to stay within 3-hour meetings, though.
Yeah. I think, Judy, to this extent, though, in terms of keeping it to a 3-hour meeting, which I think, Kevin is trying to do here, the problem I see with that is we're voting on 41 warrants and having to go through the ayes for the whole 9 people, I think is going to add some time. So we may want to estimate maybe like an additional half an hour to get through that. Just my opinion. So
maybe we can group some motions together or some other such time-saving device.
Maybe. I think we ought to take a look at that. I'm
But,
done.
I mean, just to comment on that, but, you know, if it's a 3-hour or 3.5 hour, but I agree, if we can streamline any way, we should do that.
I guess maybe I do have one more comment. The other question I had, a comment I had was the Finance Committee report to the town meeting. From our meeting on the 23rd.
John, I think that's the next agenda item.
All right, whatever.
Okay. Hannah, do you have any questions or comments? Hannah, you're muted.
I don't have any questions, thank you. But I will just let you know that Kevin and I have been in close conversation regarding timing and sort of where the state is in our deliberations on the budget as well, which I just would like to share with all of you. We don't have a timeline yet for when we are going to take up a fiscal year 21 budget. There are two scenarios that I see. One would be we vote on another 1/12 budget for August and potentially September, and then we do a budget in early October when we have September tax revenue. I think that's the least likely of the two options. The other is that sometime within the next 2 weeks or so, there is a budget that is presented to us, which is basically an agreed upon budget between the House and the Senate, which is not normally how we would do a budget. That will essentially be a more up or down vote and not allow for amendments and addition of things to it. That would give the governor 10 days, which he has in statute, to respond to the budget while we're still in session, because we end formal session on July 31st. The other third potential option is that we stay in August and do a budget. I don't see that as being likely because we don't have any additional information really in August that we wouldn't have before the end of July. I think if anything, if we're going to be brought back in, it would be in the fall when there's more clarity on the tax revenue situation.
Thank you, Hannah. Thank you for that update. Jordan, do you have any questions or comments?
I do not.
Thank you, Jordan. Carlos, do you have any questions or comments?
No, I do not.
Okay, and actually, from the dialogue that we've already had, you answered the questions that I had. So this isn't something that we vote on. This is just where these are the meeting dates that are being proposed, or okay.
Yeah. I mean, I'm just trying to, this is how I see it, making sure that, this is how I would structure it. And I think it's a sufficient and meaningful path forward for the committee to review and do its normal work. We do butt up against the timing in order to produce the town meeting book and everything by the end of, the week of July 20th that we're proposing to do this work in. So that's something that we'll need to be mindful of. And, we need to get the public hearings posted and all those things. So we really have a kind of a narrow window to kind of commit to getting everything done, within that time frame.
I think that's a good segue into item number 7, which is to review and discuss the Finance Committee report, because last time we talked about the fact that we wanted to have these meetings on July 22nd and July 20. Well, we didn't know the date then, but we wanted to review the budget before we finalize the Finance Committee report. I think John was asking if town meeting is going to be August 8th, and if that meeting is July 23rd, when would we need to have the Finance Committee report done?
Ideally, we would be have everything finalized by the following, Monday or Tuesday at the latest.
All right, because I think these are, I actually made notes, because these are Wednesday and Thursday meetings. So July 22nd is a Wednesday and July 23rd is a Thursday. And I'm sorry, you said we'd have to have it finalized by that Monday?
Yeah, say by early the morning of Tuesday the 28th at the latest.
Okay.
We need to get town meeting materials mailed out 7 days in advance of the meetings, which means they need to be postmarked by Friday of that following week, the 31st.
Okay. All right, so I think then that it's important for finance committee members to mark their calendars for the July 22nd, July 23rd meeting.
Excuse me.
Sure, go ahead.
Right. I just want to make sure that we're going to have quorum then, because I may be in session, because that's coming. Usually we're in session many days in the end of July. So if we're doing session remotely, which I plan to be doing so, I will try and do both at the same time if possible. But you need to make sure that you've got a quorum, just given people's vacations on those 2 days, with not including me.
So I guess that's a good question. Is there anybody else who thinks that they may not be able, that's here tonight, that may not be able to attend?
I can be there.
How about you, Vikram? Can you attend both those meetings?
Yes, I'll be there.
Okay. What about you, Jordan?
I believe so. So we're still virtual then, correct?
Correct.
Yes.
Yes, then absolutely.
Okay. And then John, you'll be able to make both those meetings?
Yes, I will.
Okay. All right, great. All right. So at least, so we've got a couple more, at least we need one of the other two to be able to make the meetings, and that will, at a minimum, that will give us quorum. Obviously, Hannah, we'd like to have you there, but we do need to make sure that we have quorum.
I think you do. I think you have 5 plus. I don't know what Carlos just.
Oh, I'm sorry, Carlos. Okay.
Okay.
Will you be able to?
I will be there. Just to confirm, they're both at 7 p.m. Is that correct?
I think that could be discussed if the committee wanted to give itself a little bit more time of having a 6:30 start. I don't mean to, if that's a challenge for you, Carlos, sorry about that, but it's a good point. The committee could, if you want to give yourself a little bit of extra room, since we're going to try to do it in 2 nights, we could post the hearings for 6:30 if there's no conflicts. But traditionally 7, that's correct.
I'll be there whichever time.
So does anybody have any problem with the 6:30 start for those meetings? Okay. Going once, twice? Okay. So I think, Kevin, I think that's a good idea with the 6:30 start for those meetings. So, John, I know you've been taking the lead on the finance committee's report. So I'd be willing to work with you on that to get that finalized for no later than the 28th.
Yeah, okay. I mean, we should have something, if you want to call it preliminary, to discuss on the 22nd or the 23rd. So at least, unless just the committee's going to divert to you and I and just say whatever we come up with is okay. But I would think we want to at least show it to the committee and get some comments on it before we make any final changes.
Yeah, we definitely have to get comment.
Yeah. I mean, usually I'm not at a loss for words, but I've thought about it and I'm not sure what to write on this report at this point. So, it's going to be a lot of searching to come up with some stuff. And, Kevin, obviously we can ask for your input also on this.
Yeah, no, I'm happy to get some revised numbers to you again, John, and like the format that we always work from, if that helps build in the report and compare apples to apples. And then if we have to make any last minute changes, we can do so.
Yeah, I mean, putting the numbers are gonna be the numbers. My concern is that looking forward, if we do so in the report, I mean, how do we bring up a comment to the town meeting in terms of anticipation of where we may be going, or, you know, proceed with caution, I guess, is gonna be the answer. And how do we state that? I guess, I don't know.
Right. Yeah, I mean, caution will be the key as the more free cash we pump into the operating budget, the bigger gap we start next year with. So,
Yeah. So I'm all set.
Okay. All right, great. So we'll take a look at what we have. And obviously we've just got to get the report done in time to go there. And we'll have to get feedback from the committee. So maybe we'll have to do that through in the process we've, submitted comments. Obviously it would have to be done in a very abbreviated time frame. So committee members are going to just have to be ready to be available to do that, roll up their sleeves and get it done. So, all right, great. So there are no correspondence to this week. So at this point, I'd like to get a motion to adjourn the meeting.
So moved.
Can I get a second?
Second.
Okay. So I'm going to go down through the roll call. Mark,
Aye.
Vikram,
Aye.
John,
Aye.
Anna,
Yes.
Jordan. Okay. Carlos
Aye.
and Judy Vetter. Aye. So the meeting is adjourned. Thank you all.
thank you.
Bye now.
Bye. Stay safe.